All right, we're back, and it's COMP2007, Enterprise Computing, and it's week 12, lesson 12, part 2. I can't believe it's week 12. All right, remember the week, next week, week 13, just as a review before we go on, is I'm not going to give you additional work to do. Next week is going to be a review week, right? I'm going to review stuff that you need to know for the exam, right? That's one thing we're going to do next week. We might do a couple small little things that we might talk about next week, but generally next week is going to be a review week, right? And also, you're going to be doing your presentations, right? That's the two things that we're doing next week. So one thing is you're presenting your final project, right? Yeah?
How long is our presentation supposed to be?
5 to 10 minutes.
Okay.
I don't want a big presentation. But for next week, please, look, what I don't want for you to see you next week is, please don't come without a presentation background. I want to see PowerPoint, man. I want to see some kind of thing that you're going to have. You're going to show your presentation a little bit. Yeah.
Does YouTube video work?
The what?
As a presentation.
Which one?
YouTube video.
YouTube.
Like, what if we did it on a computer as a screencast kind of thing?
Screencast is good. If you're not, remember what the two options I told you were live presentation or screencast, right? I'm always giving you a screencast option because we may not be able to get to everybody, right?
Yeah.
Or let's say you're not here next week, right? Let's say you're like you're like Blake, right? And or someone who's not here, right? Or Steve decides not to come next week because he has other better things to do. He wants to work out, He wants to work out, and you know what? And Lewis gets sick, and they want to do a presentation somehow else. I'm okay if getting a presentation if you're not going to do it in class. But I would like some people to present. It'd be nice to give you some feedback. Yeah.
No, but we'll be here. Just like I was thinking,
promise?
maybe do it as an ad kind of thing.
Do you promise? Do you do?
If I die, maybe not.
No. If you're here, just do it live, man. Live. If you're gonna Skype?
Yeah.
No. Skype no. Skype no.
I'm thinking maybe do it as an ad.
An ad?
Yeah. Why not?
I'd like you to do it live. If you're going to be here, present live in front of me like you're presenting to a client.
PowerPoint is boring. Nobody ever wants to pay attention to PowerPoint.
Hey,
Hey, I want to.
I'm just telling you. Right? Hey, then use Prezi. If you want to do something more interesting, I know. I don't like it either. But
PowerPoint with Bootstrap. It's the same thing.
Make your own. Use Impress.js.
I need a month.
Come on. You did it last time. I showed you how to use Impress.js. It's not that difficult, right? Use something, but I want some kind of background. I don't want you to come up here and say, hi. My name is John, and today I'm presenting my code. Here we go. Ready?
This is the header.
Talk to me about what happened. How did you develop? Who's your partner? Why did you think of this project? What was your lessons learned? Talk about these things a little bit when you talk to your presentation. It doesn't have to be big. All right, we're not talking about big stuff, right? But enough that we know why you're doing, why you picked the topic, and who's your partner? What are you doing? Tell me give us a walkthrough of how it works. Show us that it works on Azure, right? Because it's supposed to work on Azure, right? Yeah.
Just asking because I don't remember. Do you have a rubric?
Yeah, you got a rubric. Go up online, brother. All right, let's get back to this stuff. So we've done a couple things to make it look nice, all right? And let's refresh again. I've got my welcome home. I've just changed my links so they work now. All I've done is I've gone in here into my default master page, and I've added in the / for the home and the / /contact.aspx for a contact page that doesn't exist, right? Okay, so let us now go back here, and when I press my contact page, we should get our error, yeah? Here's our error that comes back. If I go back to my home page, I go back out here. Hey, here's something. What if I go to a non-ASPX page, right? Like here, I want to go to Steve, right? Here, not Starbase 12. If I go to Steve, right, I'm going to go steve.index or .html, right? What happens there? I get this weird error, right? How come I'm getting this weird error? How come I'm getting a weird error? Because I'm not going to an ASPX page. It's not hitting the ASPX page. I'm hitting an index.htm or HTML, any kind of weird error. So how do I handle these kinds of errors? How do I handle these kinds of errors? So this is your thing. This is your thing to discover for today. I want you to figure out, I want you to look it up, because in real life, we'd want to try and handle any error, any kind of error whatsoever, right? Right now, what we've made is a 404 page, right? That kind of handles 404 pages and all ASPX errors. But what about other errors? How do I handle non-ASPX page errors, right, in our code? So that's one of the challenges I want to get you to do, right? I'm going to give you a few minutes in a few minutes we're going to talk about that. One other thing I want to talk about is how do I add in icons on my page? I want to add in an icon on my home page. Well, remember we have Font Awesome, right? So let's look at the Font Awesome page for a second, so to understand how that works. Because hey, I want you guys to use icons, right? I don't want you just to use words, because that's just boring as hell, right? So I'm going to go to my fontawesome.github.io page. This is where it is. It gives you superpowers for sure. By the way, this is the default one. Font Awesome is the default package that almost everyone uses now with Bootstrap, right? It's not like anything new. If I go to icons and I want to search for something like a home page, and I press enter, oh, how about over here? Home page with something else, whatever. And then it'll give me a couple of options. Here's my home icon. This is what it would look like. And it actually gives you the code. It says I. So you're going to use the I tag, and the I tag was originally used, if who remembers what it was, for italics, right? That's what it was used for before. Of course, we don't use that for italics anymore, right? So we use the I class with an FA, which is Font Awesome, and then the font type, or the actual icon, the glyph, FA home, right? So that's the default page, right? So if I'm going to take this, the default icon, so I take this, I'm going to copy it, oops, I'm going to copy it, and go back to here, and then just before the home itself, I want to put it in. So I'm going to go bam, right? And I'm going to give it a bit of a space because I want a space between my icon and my home, right? That's one thing I want to put in. Okay, you're going to see that there's a bit of a problem, right? But let's just see what the problem is. So I'm going to run this thing again, or refresh, and go back to my page, and I see, if I've done everything correctly, a little icon, right? That appears on my page, nicely too. And why icon fonts and why not pictures, right? Well, in this day and age, icon fonts are way more scalable than any kind of image that you can put in there. It's the way to go. It's less on load when it comes to page load, and it's the default standard now for how we do icons on pages. And the good thing is, if we go from a responsive perspective, if I go drop this down to the little menu bar and I click onto this, I see an icon that comes up here as well. So again, maybe what we want to do here is on the menu side, we want to get rid of the home, the text that says home, and just put the icon in there. But here's something. I think this icon is far too small for my liking. I want to make it bigger, right? So what can we do? Well, there's different size classes. So here's my Font Awesome home. I can also put in FA, and if I start typing, if you notice there's 2x, 3x, 4x, and 5x. I can make it really big if I want. So I'm going to go FA 2x, right? And save. And then when I refresh the page, if I go back here and refresh, my icon becomes nicely bigger, right? And I like this size probably better. Here's a good thing. In my inverse, okay, we're in my inverse page, right? As an example, even in my inverse page, it selected the right font for me to use. So it selected one that works with my inverse style of paging. Okay, here's another thing. I want to put in one for contact. Hey Steve, you pick one for me. Tell me which one I should use for my contact page, or my, instead of like the things. I'm going to go to Font Awesome, and I'm going to go to my Font Awesome icons, and I'm going to scroll down here, and if I put in contact, right, there is nothing that really comes up with contact. But what about something like a phone, right? Well, there's different ones. There's a phone that's square, there's a mobile. Which one you want me to use, Steve?
Just like the old school phone.
The old school phone. So I'm going to put this phone, I click on there, and again, it gives me the code for how to use that. Very nice and simple for everybody. I'm going to copy this thing, and now remember, we used a 2x. I'm going to put over here where it says contact. I'm going to put a 2x in there because I put 2x in here. I want to stay the same size with all my fonts. That's just a best practice, I would say. I'll go down here and use a 2x. All right, so now, and again, that's how easy it is to install once you've installed Font Awesome. Again, I think it gives you superpowers for sure. It's one of those other frameworks that does that, just like Bootstrap. Right? And there we go. Now I look pretty sexy with my phone, right? Yeah.
I was thinking it's probably a good idea to have both the written and the icon, especially for accessibility purposes.
I think it is, because icons are really great from if you want to make a toolbar, and so on. But if you want to make it, like you said, for accessibility purposes, you want to do this. Hey, here's something. If I want to style my icon so it doesn't go on the bottom or the left, but it actually goes on the bottom, how do I make that happen? Or if I want to make my icon go on the top, right? Or something like that of the page. How can I make this happen? Anybody have an idea? Well, the thing to note is this, right? It is a custom control, right? So even though I've got this I, right, with a font awesome home, right, and my font awesome is 2x, I have some other classes in here that allows me to do some stuff. So if I go back into my font awesome, right, it gives us other kinds of examples. If I go to examples, right, it says basic icons, they have larger icons, they have fixed width icons, right, which is kind of cool. You need this. This works better for some kind of list group item, so fixed width. They have list icons, right? They have bordered and pulled icons, right, like this, right? They have automated icons like this, almost like a GIF image, right? They have rotated and flipped icons where you can rotate and flip the icon. There's lots of control here that you got with this stuff. Stacked icons, one on top of the other, right? So no camera or whatever, you can make your own little stacked icons, right? And there's some really cool Bootstrap examples to link in with Bootstrap 3, which is the latest version of Bootstrap, right? So again, there's definitely things you can do just out of the box with the icon stuff, right? Where you can add a border, or you can do all kinds of stuff built in, right? One thing you may want to think about is putting your own custom CSS for icons, right? Another thing to check sometimes is, and I'm just kind of introducing Font Awesome to you guys, but the other thing to really check to me is also look at the Bootstrap stuff, right? So if I go getbootstrap.com, and if I look at CSS as an example, there's some typography and buttons and forms and all this kind of stuff. Sometimes in here in the actual framework, like for example, if I look at something like buttons or icons, sometimes they have these kind of things. Let's see if I got them under components. Yeah, see they got available glyphs here. See this glyph icon stuff? So if you don't want to use Font Awesome, you can always use the glyph icon stuff that's built into Bootstrap. Again, I think to me it looks a little bit too bootstrappy when you use this stuff. So that's why I use the Font Awesome stuff, because I think it's just better. There's just a lot more options from a fonts. And they add to the fonts every month or so, right? There's more and more fonts that they add in there. You just get the latest version, right? So this is cool. I want to kind of scroll down here from a glyph perspective. It shows you how to use these ones as well. Now, there's not bad at all, these ones here. But it talks about how to use. It says, hey, don't mix with other components. And what they do is they use a span to use the icon font. So here's an example of how they do this. They have a span with a class of glyph icon search. And then, hey, area hidden is true. This is a really good thing to put in because from a screen reader perspective, you don't want to see them, like you said, right? You don't want to see what they are because the screen readers won't know this, right? Here's where we put in our star, and if you notice, it's a star, and you can make different sizes, right? But one thing they really don't tell you is how do I make it so that it kind of, pulls on top or goes on the bottom or whatever? How do I make that happen? We can use our own custom CSS to do that, yeah? How would I target, and here's my question to you for those people who are CSS gurus, right? How do I target this to these, because there's actually two components here, right? One component is the icon, the other component is the actual list item, the name, the text that comes with the list item. How do I target it so that these two things come in a block, display block formation, right? I don't want them to be inline block. They're two little items, right, that I want them to be displayed one on top of the other. Is there anything that you guys can think of to do that? How do we kind of code the CSS for that one? And by the way, it would probably be the same way when we go into this piece here. So when we go here, they're going to be stacked just like they'd be stacked here, right? And you can make your own media query to do that if you wanted to change how it looks when it's stacked. But I want one to stack on top of the other because I want to make a toolbar a little bit differently than how this looks. How do I do that? Well, first of all, let's go back to the code, right? So here's a couple of items here. So again, we have our list items, right? We know our list items are stacked. They're using some kind of block or inline kind of display attribute, right? That's what they're probably doing, right? And you can notice on the bottom here, this is the great thing about ASP.NET web forms. It gives you the classes that are in effect right now, right? For example, it says our UL navbar is there, right? That's what it's being affected. If I click right into there, if I actually go right here, it actually shows me the item. So I'm saying the A tag, in the A tag right now, the anchor tag, I have a couple things. If I click into the I element, it shows me the actual element I can target, right? So here's my I element inside an A tag. So I can say any I elements inside A tags, right? Okay, that's cool. How about this? These two elements here, the home element, right, and my I element, there's two different elements. I can surround these two things with a span tag, right? And I can say that in the span tag, those two elements that are in my span tag are stacked from a display. Display is equal to block. Okay, follow me here. Or I can also say that the display is blocked just for the home. Let's try that first one out. So I'm going to say, but how do I do that? Well, I got to surround this thing with a span tag. So I'm going to kind of leave the space in there. So I want the space to be there. I'm going to surround this thing with this, right click, and I'm going to say surround with HTML. I'm going to skip down to see if I can find a span. There it is. Here's my span. So I don't have to type that in. All right, now it looks a little messy because it just adds another tag in there, right? So that's my span tag. And the span tag is inside my anchor tag. Okay, so anchor tag, span tag. Okay, cool. I'm going to do the same thing with this one, my contact page, right? And I'm going to surround with HTML, and I go here down to a span tag. Let's see if this works, right? So here's my span tag. Now I could try targeting it with my custom CSS, my main.css. Let's just go back into my Solution Explorer here, right? And I'm going to go into my content, this is the first time we're doing this, into my main.css, and I want to target that tag. So remember that the tag, my span tag, is inside of an A tag that's next to an I tag, right? But I only want that one to display block. Let's try this out. So I say this. So I need to have an A tag, and inside my A tag, I want to have a span tag. So any span tags that are in my A tag, any span tags that are in my A tag, I want them to be display block, right? Let's see if that works. And you know what I'll do, just to highlight that I'm targeting that right thing, I'm going to go border. I'm going to put a border on there for now of 1 pixel solid white. Right, there's a little bit of CSS that we're going to do right now. Right, so let's see what that looks like when I rerun this thing. If I've targeted it correctly, huh? So this is what I'm targeting. I've just put a border on there just so you can see what I'm targeting. This is what I'm targeting. Oh, this is cool. I like that, right? And I kind of like this, but I want this to be centered, right? Because that would be nice if this was centered on top of my grid, right? To make it custom, I want to make it look the way I want it to look. I have total control when I use CSS combined with Bootstrap. I can do whatever I want to do, right? And when I go down to the left, if I kind of go all the way to this way, it's going to be the exact same now, right? Watch. See? That's just a different look, right? I don't know if you'd like that or not. It's just an option, right? Do you want to put it on the left or the right? Yeah.
Didn't if we put it in the center, would mess up the... No.
What, just these two things?
Yeah.
What would it set up?
When you are in the small one, probably mess it up. Put it in the middle.
Let's see, Lewis. Just you're challenging me now, all right?
I'm challenging you.
So how would I do that? Well, the great thing is that CSS that's built into our page for this. Remember that our href, our A tag, has text that's inside of it, right? So now, I mean, I've got a span tag, and I want this I class here. It has this class of FA, font awesome, font home, blah blah blah. But I can also remember it's an icon, right? An icon is just a graphic, it's a glyph, right? So what if I just said something like this? Text center, right? Let's see if that works. If that causes this to work properly. It may work, it may not. I'm just guessing that it's kind of like a font, right? That's why it's called font awesome, right? So I'm guessing that anything that's in my I class inside that container should be centered. Let's see if that works. It may not. I may have to center everything in there, which means I may have to target my A tag as an example, or my list item, the list item itself. Okay, let's see how that works. Let's first of all, let's refresh and see if that does anything there. So you see, that didn't do anything because my container is so small, right? Let's go back. So text center didn't work here because we don't have anything. It's inside my I tag, right? That's what. But if I want to, if I center anything else, as an example, I've got to give myself some room. So it's either going to be my A tag or my list item. So let's try it in the list item. So I'm going to say class active text as center, right? Oh, center. And let's do the same thing here. Class is equal to text center. And let's see if that works in my list item. And depending on how much what my list item has in play, it could work a little better. There it is, right? So it's my text center now, right? My list item. And let's get rid of the little boxes. I don't care about the boxes anymore, right? Because I don't care about that. We'll go back into my main.css here and get rid of this border. All right. So a little bit more. Hey, we even did some styling today, huh? What do you think, right? Now we could have. There's many ways we could have done this. Instead of an A span, I could have created a div tag, or sorry, a span tag that went around everything, and then from there targeted that span tag, the whole span tag, so it was display block. There's a lot of different things I could have done. Yeah, I could have also created a class or an ID. Yeah.
I've kind of forgotten the purpose of the span tag.
Span tag just gives you another place to control text. So if I wanted to target, so a div tag is a container tag, a span tag is a container tag. Typically, what we want to put is if we want to target a piece of text, or it's more of an inline kind of tag where we can anything like that. We want to target a piece of text, almost like instead of putting it's a custom tag. So instead of putting strong or emphasis around an item, I can put a span tag around a piece of text. I can target that text or item, whatever it is, image, and then inside there I can style that thing specifically. I can target that one thing, right, with a span. Okay, but this is all A tags, all anchor tags within a span is display block. That's what this is saying. Okay, all span elements. So all span elements inside of anchor tags. That's what it's targeting. All right. So let us refresh that thing to get rid of the look. So this is the look and feel. If I want to target my menu now, my menu items are pretty big, right? But when I go to here, if I go to this page here, what's happening, right? What's happening here? See, now it's centered. I kind of like that look myself, right? So it kind of centers the whole thing as well. It's not just centering this thing, it just does this as well. So it looks like a nicer little page. Yeah, I would say so too, yeah? All right, so your task, you know, by the end of the class, it's 11:56, 12 o'clock. You have 1 hour. I want you to figure out, how do I make it so that I have my error handling work for non-ASPX pages, right? So I don't have an ASPX page. I'm using an index.html page I'm searching for, or something else. I'm going to some odd page. Hey, what if I just search for gobbledygook like this? Watch. If I just go blah, blah, right, and enter something there as well. It shouldn't take me to this HTML, you know, this 404 page, because look at all this stuff it's giving me, right? I don't want this to come up. I want a custom page to come up, right? So I'll give you like some time. Let's not do the whole hour because I want to talk about other stuff. Let's take 20 minutes, okay? I want to give you 20 minutes. I want you to figure out how to do this custom error page as one of your labs. I'm going to create a lab for you. Oh yeah, baby. A lab is going to be done to make a custom pair to give you more work to do, buddy. Right?
Oh, thank you so much.
To kind of put up. So I'm going to put up the lab in a second, right? So again, your job is to make a custom error page that works with anything. It's another thing you need to do to figure out how do I do it so that any page that I go to will give me a custom error page as opposed to this error right here. It's not an ASPX page. ASPX page we've handled already. How do I handle other kind of pages? And that's the challenge, okay? I'll stop it here.